did you call my name?
For years, we thought we knew what the next Xenoblade needed to be. More X, more Saga, more science fiction, more proof that every loose thread was secretly tied to the same machine. When a series trains you to look beneath the world, you start believing the truth must always be buried under it. A cycle, a god, the lore pretending to never end. But that wasn't what Xenoblade needed.
I took the easy way out.
We just wandered Mira for hundreds of hours. In the trilogy, we've already watched Xenoblade become cosmic, theological, mechanical, recursive. Another answer would not feel like revelation. It would just be Takahashi-san betraying the ending of Xenoblade 3. Unable to move on. When Xenoblade Genesis opens with 6 suns, dragons, 3 houses like academy walls, it hits you like a whiplash. Anima, Vesselai, and a world that looks too magical to be Xenoblade. Maybe that's the point. The next step wasn't Xenosaga, Xenogears, or Xenoblade X. I was wrong. Xenoblade wasn't interested in stitching the old into the new. No, break it. Completely sever it, because you can do it again. Make the word Xeno feel foreign again. What you want is not what you need. Eleanor is a slave. No, a girl sold to Dagos. In Anshar, I suppose, freedom has a cost not everyone can afford, and she can't earn it. So he saved her. This man, Kain, a gladiator so agile that they call him the incarnation of the Black Panther, a man raised inside a coliseum built for slaughter who somehow turns that slaughter into spectacle. His bones are broad enough to think before he swings, but violent enough that the world decided what they were for. To be someone else's slave, to be their warrior. Is that all there to be? So, he saved her. Kain is holding Eleanor in his hands. But she isn't moving. I mean, she must have fell while climbing her way out of this world, like the first time we met. Her smile, her eyes. Eleanor had so much more to see. She'll wake up. Right? At that moment, we see the waves of Anima engulfing Kain. This is called emergence, the motive power needed to use potential, something that only activates in moments of urgency. Now, Eleanor wakes up, but the world does not return with her. Pure darkness. She's blind. By the time she arrives at Lukos, we realize how blindness is not her origin. It is the wound that brought her to the academy. Not because she wants to, but because she has to. The Crystone that is given to her, given by her professor, also that Eleanor can see again. Eleanor's wound is personal, but Anshar's is much older. This world has 6 suns. Nations are everywhere. Their wars never end. Water, fire, and wind. Why isn't there a 4th one? Where's the earth? See, in the myth of Mesopotamia, Anshar is sky. Kishar is earth. She isn't here because Kishar is locked away. Anshar is now without his wife. The sky is waiting for his earth to come back, leaving us only with water, fire, and wind. And in Xenoblade, the Trinity is never innocent. Pneuma, Logos, and Ontos as the fabrics of reality. First, Logos burns the skin with fire. Then, Pneuma seeps water on top. The scars want to heal. And Ontos sweeps over them with the wind so that the water gets in there. The scar needs to absorb the water, even if it can't heal. Not because Mesopotamian myth is Gnostic, but because Xenoblade can Gnosticize it. If Xenoblade Genesis names the world after Anshar but not Kishar, then the world is already asymmetrical. It's a heaven without its earth, order without chaos. Anima is not just ether, it's what ether was always trying to become in the trilogy. It is the substrate that makes fire, water, and wind possible. It can observe the wind directly. Ontos, Friedrich Hegel's Geist, is historical movement. And maybe that is what makes Anima so unstable, and the primary reason why Xenoblade Genesis is not showing us Eden. Eleanor's objective here is not to become powerful inside the world, but to learn what kind of world power has made. This world is already filled with nations that can't stop fighting, powered by Anima that transformed nature's water, fire, and wind into technique, weapon, and institutional war. Creation is militarized here. It can't be sublime. I want you to look at the horizon. To me, it doesn't feel like an open sky. It feels like the edge of something, a wall. Not a literal Dyson sphere maybe, but a constructed heaven whose surfaces become visible only when the sixth sun illuminates. While it's not a cube, Anshar feels like a world with corners. Can a heaven exist with its surfaces? Would that life be worth living? The trailer states how the defeated god's hatred has not yet been avenged, and suddenly the fantasy stops feeling so simple. Maybe Anshar is not just where the story happens, not the past memory of Bionis and Mechonis retold. No, that would be too easy. Maybe Anshar is what happens. Not fantasy, but creation myth Xenoblade. A world where war, religion, and creation are the same things. And ultimately, our objective will be to distinguish which is which. And for once, to stay with that, resisting the urge to merge the difference into one, to stay with legitimate contradiction. What is real and what is fiction? You won't know. Anshar has a knight, a real one. The fire burns on the beach while Pneuma's green anima gathers at its edges. It's Pyra holding Melissa's hand, releasing the power of Ouroboros, something that we've all seen before. The camera leaves the flames behind and looks upward. We see the night sky, not the ocean folding into it. The wall that separates us is not here anymore. And for a moment, Anshar looks normal. Everything is judged by its appearance. What is unseen counts for nothing. We still have 5 suns, 5 cold blue suns gather in the center of the stars. The larger sun that bathes Anshar is not here, and that tells us what the night actually is. During the day, the 6th sun artificially illuminates whatever rises beyond the horizon, but at night, that light disappears. This makes the illusion more sophisticated, because whatever structure contains these people does not need to remove its walls. It only needs to stop illuminating them. And below, a girl begins a ritual. Her eyes close, her hands rise, we watch. The anima passes through, collects around her staff, then surges upward toward the 5 suns. Now the time is upon us, she says. The appointed hour, the hour to restore the 6th sun. In Genesis, God first says, "Let there be light." Only after the light do the heavenly bodies arrive, placed within the firmament for signs and for seasons and for days and years. That distinction matters because the sun, even the sixth sun, is not the source of light. It is only the instrument that gives light an ontological position. If Anima exists and it flows through the land already, burning as fire, moving as wind, flowing as water, the girl can't create light from nothing. The plot of Xenoblade Genesis asks us to not transfer but reconstruct the definition of Anima. After all, Anshar is a machine mistaken for heaven, hoping to break a ritual so old that no one remembers the difference between maintaining the world and creating it. Anshar and Kishar, just like Agnes and Keves, are the twins of Mesopotamian myth, the earth and sky, and the sixth sun is meant to bring Kishar back into Anshar, the moment the fallen god reaches for him. The girl holding the boy's hand, not unlike Eleanor and Kain, don't you think? The staff, the ritual, the motes, all mediating the divine, rising because of humanity, hoping that the fallen god rises not out of revenge, but love. If only hope was enough. Creation still keeps failing. In Babylon, the Enuma Elish is not just a story about how the cosmos began. It is recited during the New Year's festival when the cosmic and the political order are renewed, which tells us that the world does not remain stable by itself. Someone has to explicitly maintain it, keeping the sky attached to the earth for one more cycle, while knowing it's disconnected. If the sixth sun separates the day from night, it keeps the nations moving through the history instead of collapsing into one endless moment. Remove it and the world loses more than daylight. It loses cause and effect, beginning and end. And so humanity is unable to trust nature, wanting to conduct the rhythm itself. But what if restoring the sixth sun is not actually healing Anshar, but killing it? Something I've decided of late is that I actually agree with the baby boomers. All this social media is destroying us. I live in a small city. When I walk around, it feels like I'm moving through a beach. We all keep our heads down, terrified of meeting the eyes of a stranger, haunted by the idea that they can see us just as clearly as we can see them. We're deeply afraid of coming into contact with people. It often feels like maybe the world is too big for us, or rather that we've made the world too big for us. We have a functionally infinite number of connections at the ready via the internet, and many of us have more parasocial interactions with online personalities than actual relationships with people in real life. The gas station clerk is more machine than man. It serves one purpose, and anything outside of that is extraneous. So when it breaks down, you replace it with one of Elon's robots instead. This is the fatal misbelief of the protagonist. Xenoblade Genesis wants to challenge this. The trailer ends with stating how we will learn the resentment of a fallen god has not yet been avenged. In the Enuma Elish, the ordered cosmos is born after divine violence. Marduk defeats Tiamat and turns her divided body into heaven and earth. The sixth sun keeps the god asleep, and we are waking it up without realizing. It's ironic because JRPGs spent decades training us to kill God, to seize our destiny. Zanza, Zed, Void. But Genesis may ask for something much harder. Can you love a god that hates you? The seventh bud will appear, the lily of the valley. It's a flower that is slightly odd because Anshar has 6 sons, so why 7 buds? Well, Genesis has 6 days of creation, but the 7th day is always different. God does not create another object, he stops completely. The 7th day is a reset, the moment creation rests in being rather than doing. The 6 buds are the suns, but the 7th is the earth. Kishar is finally here. And now here is the contradiction. The 7th bud cannot grow in this soil, not when the war prevents it. One army advances beneath sealed metal helmets, their bodies disappearing inside identical gray uniforms. Same swords, same armor, the person underneath doesn't matter. While the other nation charges beside enormous beasts. Their armor is lighter, weapons older, orange hides and exposed faces against the manufactured gray. In conflict, yet again. But I propose that this is a story that the Grey Army would tell. One of them turns humans into interchangeable parts. The other one turns creatures into mounts, weapons sent screaming into steel. Neither side escapes the same logic. That is what Anima becomes when institutionalized. The nation with better walls calls itself advanced, and the nation without them becomes backward. No. A backwater. I'll show you where you belong, you backwater noble, she said. Somehow the same war walks into the Lucas Academy wearing a cleaner uniform. The Japanese direct translation says, I will teach you the limits of a provincial noble. A noble from the center and a noble from the edge may share the same title, but only one is allowed to believe it means something. Old families, captive families, families whose names opened the door before their children ever touched it. So when Eleanor comes in, it's wrong. Perhaps her family was noble once, perhaps conquered, indebted, sold, reduced to a title no one is willing to honor. Eleanor has enough status to enter Lukos, but not enough to belong here. Then this guy answers back. She's tougher than you think. Doesn't need a Crystone to use her powers. See, Eleanor's powers were already there long before the professor gave her the Crystone, before the institution gave the object that supposedly made her legible. While Eleanor can touch the source without permission, that won't do for the Academy. Lukos states that the Crystone amplifies a Vesselai's abilities, but it also records thoughts, actions, intentions, karma. It is a stone that follows the student through academy life, not only during training. The stone is more of a license, a transcript, recording one's soul. And that's what makes Eleanor so dangerous. The Crystone can amplify her, discipline her, tame her. It can help her navigate the world after she loses the ability to see. It is why Eleanor is here. It is why she needed to bend the knee to the Academy. Contracts are easier to sign when grief is holding the pen. Eleanor needs to find her brother. She needs them to find him. And institutions hate nothing more than a gift they cannot pretend they granted. In ancient Mesopotamia, the temples did not only worship gods. Eleanor's mind is right now being converted into a ledger the institution can preserve, interpret, reward, or condemn for a reason. The feedback loop between the self and the system is being monopolized. A pale elf woman framed like an icon, gold markings, ceremonial dress. We live and die in harmony with Anima, she says. Harmony makes inequality sound natural. You can bend it whichever way you want. The provinces need to obey the center. Harmony. Young people need to learn to turn anima into violence. Harmony. Soldiers die beneath 6 suns, while nobles discuss balance inside cathedral walls. Harmony. We see a man here suspended inside blue lights. Beside him stands a veiled attendant holding a ritual staff. It's a projection. And it's weird because religion and technology occupy the same frame in Anshar. They were never separated. This is how the state survives inside a creation myth. Vesselai was never meant to describe the aristocratic warrior class. It describes the human condition, the vessels of Anima, as Xeno Saga says, searching for its animus, desiring self-consciousness. And that makes Eleanor more than a talented provincial girl. She becomes a theological scandal, proof that Anima does not care about pedigree, proof that heaven never asked for the Academy's permission, and most importantly, proof that hierarchy beneath the 6 suns is not natural, it's performative. Kain said, quote, "Killing is a part of Vesselai's job." But right after that, wondering how the victims might feel. Can't unshackle you, Kain. These two, Eleanor and Kain, might have powers, but they're still slaves. You can see how young they are. It isn't up to them to decide who lives or dies. And for the dragon rider who's flying through this Babel-like structure in Xenogears, this question is much simpler. I want you to look at the gun strapped to his back, loaded with bullets to burn the sinners. Xenogears fans have seen this contradiction before. A priest carrying a firearm, a gentle man trained by ethos to purge whatever the church had already named impure. Not because the dragon rider is Billy, but because Takahashi has returned to Billy's question. What happens when religion teaches a good person to describe killing as salvation? Only the dragon's purifying flame can redeem a soul that has forsaken its faith, he says. The soul has abandoned its faith, so the body must burn, we think. A refiner burns away the impurity while preserving the metal, but this man riding the dragon burns the metal too, then calls the ash redeemed. In Revelation, the dragon is the ancient serpent, the deceiver, and the Anshar's faithful have climbed onto its back, placed a gun behind the saddle and called Logos' fire divine. The church points the gun and asks everyone who abandoned God, then shoots the one that stutters. Purification by fire needs to mean something else. This is the way of our world, Anshar's version of ethos. A religion that preserves knowledge, controls anima, certifies Vesselai, and turns enemies into theological impurities. First, the Academy trains the weapon, then the church names the sinner, and then the dragon is sent to carry out the sentence. So Eleanor fights this creature, a woman perhaps, or what remains of her after the distinction stops mattering. The silhouette is still human, 2 arms, 2 legs, black geometry runs across the creature's pale limbs. Now this form is what Lukos means by mastering anima, becoming so compatible with it that there is no longer enough of you left to resist. A perfected Vesselai. She wants it. He wants it. The conduit isn't just power, it is the primal source where the ruling class cannot command anima. It's a place where land, soul, light, and God become one. I'm going back to where I belong, he says. So that's why she's here, to discover what took her brother. Was he killed? Transformed? Chosen? The Academy has the answers. Eleanor learns herself through the stone learns Eleanor in return. Neither one dissolves into the other, staying separate. And this is how she will break the handcuff. And that is how this story will ultimately end. At the end of the trailer, the fallen god reawakens carrying the memory of everything done to her. The vengeance, the hatred, it's a perfect record. We could fight her, and you know what? Maybe we will. But Eleanor needs to do what she did with the Crystone. Kill her, not with swords and magic. Kill God with love. Raise the fallen god and do what your ancestors couldn't, Eleanor. Sacrifice yourself instead.
Or sit and burn alive.